My name is Jacob Little, and I sort of grew up in New South Wales, a bit of Queensland. My dad, he served a 16 and a half year prison sentence. So I was in a street gang. Also, I was the president of my club. In Queensland, at that time, there was a law called the Vlad Law. If I was convicted, it was a minimum 20 years. I thought it's just going to be the rest of my life. About Time for Justice was kicked off. Me and my my dad, with the compensation money we received for going through institutional SA. It's a life sentence, the SA stuff, whether you're in jail or out.
All right, yo, it's your boy Dave here, and this is the TFS podcast, or the new name TFS TV. Hope all is well out there. Brother, could you please introduce yourself and where you're from originally?
Yeah, my name is Jacob Little. I'm from About Time for Justice. I'm based on the Gold Coast, 34 years old. I was born in Coffs Harbour in New South Wales, and I sort of grew up in New South Wales, a bit of Queensland. But yeah, my mum's originally from New Zealand, and my dad's sort of from Aussie ways.
Brother Jacob, it's an absolute blessing to have you on the show. And just like the sign behind you, About Time for Justice. Brother, could you explain what that is?
About Time for Justice was kicked off. Me and my dad, with the compensation money we received for going through institutional SA. So when I was 17 years old, I went to a place called Brisbane Boys Yard. It's like a boys' home, youth detention centre, is located inside a Brisbane Correctional Centre, which is a men's maximum security jail. When I was there, I had a screw come into my cell and sexually abuse me this happened more than once. So I turned 18 in jail. On my 18th birthday, I got transferred from Brisbane Correctional Centre to Arthur Gorrie Correctional Centre. I hadn't been sentenced for the charges that I was in on, and
You're on
Brisbane Correctional
remand.
Centre. Yeah, I was on remand. Yeah, it was a sentence prison. So I turned 18, but although it wasn't a sentence prison, there was only a place for 17-year-olds, and they tipped me over to R&R, Arthur Gorrie Correctional Centre. So yeah, I suffered abuse there, and I sued Queensland Corrections, and my dad suffered abuse at his local primary school. His perpetrator was a school teacher, and then he sued New South Wales Education Department. So we used our compensation money to set up our organisation to help other survivors to come forward and share their stories.
Bro, that's incredible, man. Like what you've been able to turn all of that trauma and pain into something that can heal other people's trauma and pain. And I'm sure it's been healing for you guys as well along the journey.
No, 100%, brother. It's a life sentence, the SA stuff, whether you're in jail or out. I'm still working
Yes.
on myself.
Yeah, straight up, my bro. And far out. So you started the organization with your dad. That's
Yeah,
massive, bro. So how long has it been running for now?
5 years since 2020 we kicked off. Yeah.
So do you guys work mainly with people who have survived like institutional abuse?
Yeah, so if someone's been through an Australian institution and suffered SA under the age of 18, any boys' homes, girls' homes, foster cares, docks, any youth detention centres, any churches or church-run institutions, any missions, reserves, community-based groups, sporting teams, Girl Scouts, Scouts, after-school cares, police, PCYCs. In Australia, we have what they call ward of the states, like foster care, put into resi homes, group home settings, and any schools, private, public, boarding. In Australia too, and also most countries around the world, these church-run institutions, they sort of could be church-run programs, Sunday schools, sort of church schools, any programs that they have around. Yeah.
Oh man, that's massive, mahi brother. And I mean,
Mm.
doesn't matter the institution, eh, brother. If
Mm.
abuse is happening, man.
I think that all abuse is abuse, but from what they've said, there's different categories of it. But yeah, you can definitely come forward and have a yarn with us for whatever it is, and we can sort of point you in the right directions. Lots of family violence happens, lots of stuff happens at home. So there's institutional SA and then there's at-home violence. I'd say there's more at-home violence,
Mm.
which is sad. Yeah.
Oh well. So I guess from there, my bro, can you talk a little bit about your upbringing, bro, and growing up and things?
I grew up in a single mum environment with living with my mum. And there was a lot of different men that sort of were around in the younger years of my life. My dad, he served a 16 and a half year prison sentence in the New South Wales prison system. So he was snatched away from myself and my family at 10 years old.
Well,
Uh, yeah, so and how I found out that dad was locked up was me and mum were kicking back. We were living in housing commission at the time down in Newcastle, and I remember waiting for mum to cook dinner, and I just remember seeing my dad on the news, and I was like, "What the f like, dad's on the news." At this point, he'd been pinched, but the family didn't know how to tell us. Like, this was my first interaction with the criminal justice system. So yeah, I remember seeing dad locked up, and I was like, "What the fuck?" And I just remember running from the lounge room where I was watching the telly, where I seen dad on the news, to my room, and I was just laying in my bed. I remember I was crying. It was dark, and my mum was in there, and she was like, patting me on the back or whatever. I was just laying there crying. I know that obviously wouldn't have done this, but I thought, fuck, how am I going to get my dad out of here? I'm just going to go down to the local jack shop and blow it up. Like, I was a young kid, I obviously wouldn't do that, but that's all I could think of. And I just remember my mum was just there saying, "It's going to be all right, son." But it was, yeah, that's how I sort of remembered, you know, my dad going to jail. So I grew up visiting jails, having jail phone calls. My mates are in jail. I remember just rocking up to jail visits from that very young age with my little brother and sister, and maybe my nan or my stepmom, having the sniffer dogs run over our private areas, watching the screws, maybe do the same things to not only me and my family, but to other prisoners' loved ones, um, taking them into like a private room to strip search them or harass them because them screws particularly didn't like the crims on the insides. Might have a drama with them, but then they'll take it out on their families,
Yeah,
which
hard
is
out.
totally disgusting.
Yeah, bro.
Um, yeah, it was sort of, yeah. So I grew up down mostly Newcastle, and then moved up. Well, probably Sydney. And my mum and my dad broke up from very young age. So it was just me and my mum. Mum always worked really hard. She come from New Zealand. She come to Australia when she was 17 years old by herself. But yeah, sort of lots of different schools, lots of different houses. Um,
I mean, how was that, bro? Like growing up, especially with your dad doing such a long sentence, like,
it made it normalized. It made it normal to like go to jail visits, have jail phone calls, have box visits, like have normal visits. It was so weird. My dad was in the outlaw motorcycle club, and I started getting involved in that too. But I just looked up to him for my whole, yeah, as a young kid. There's like a YouTube documentary, and he was also on the news and sort of on telly as well. When I was actually in jail, they released his episode. So like, growing up, and then when I went to jail, watching him on the news, like him being glorified on like a crime channel. Most kids look up to their family members, particularly their dads, and my dad was my king. He still is. I love him. I was with him this morning, went to
hmm
the gym.
bro, I mean, where does sort of the crime aspect start getting involved?
Yeah, so 17 years old, um, I started I was playing footy and stuff at the time, and sports was always a really big part of my life. And then sort of when I got to about 17 years old, I started drinking, started chopping in, started hanging around different crews. Um, and then I remember this one night, this guy's like bashed a group of our mates. So we retaliated and went to this house. We caved everyone there, like smashed up the whole house, smashed like the parents, kids, anyone who was there. Not kids, like I was a kid at the time. So we were only sort of, around 16, 17 or whatever.
Yeah.
But we just bashed everyone, and we got pinched, and I got put on bail. My bail conditions were not to commit any further criminal offences, curfew. The first Friday after I was put on bail, I committed a robbery with violence, and then I was locked up from there. They took me to Southport Watch House. I only got $10 from that, from robbing somebody. Pretty fucking silly, to be honest. But yeah, I remember going to Gold Coast, Southport Watch House, which was my local watch house. Every time I got pinched, that was sort of like where I'd go. And I went there many times over the years, like 10 plus times. So I remember going into that watch house. It was a pretty scary place, particularly that time, because I think that was one of my first times there. The cells there were like not much sunlight. There was all older men there, so there's like I was placed with the older men. And you got fed through the cell doors every day, had to share the cells with someone, shared showers, shared as in you couldn't lock the door so anyone could walk in. But as a young kid, I was fucking shooting myself. I was like, oh, there's like guys coming like from jail or whatever, and they're waiting to go to court. So I was in there by myself with them. And at a young age, I was pretty lucky though. Like, nothing sort of happened there. But I remember getting to Brisbane Boys Yard, and that's where I suffered my SA. And yeah, when I got there, bro, I was shitting myself to be honest, because there was like heaps of other nationalities there. You know, there was First Nations mob, there was Islanders, there's Asians, there's white fellas. Yeah, so it was pretty scary for me at that point. I remember just getting there going, fuck, what have I got myself into here? It's like a two-tier 50-man unit. I was upstairs. Yeah,
Oh, bro, and
so
you were 17.
yeah, that was 17 when I went there.
So you ended up suffering abuse at the hands of a screw or correctional officer.
Yeah.
I mean, from what you know now, bro, was that common?
Yeah, I mean, and it's alleged that, these things are still happening as of 2023 in still in happening in corrections. So I think it's still happening. But back then, I didn't. No one else that I was talking about it at that point. I was only there for a couple of months, but further, like since then, I've helped other people that were there at the same time
Well,
who have put in claims.
hell was that, brother? You know what I mean? Like going through that and after you left, like what did that do to your mind state? Like,
Yeah, well, it was really hard. I remember when I got out of so I turned 18 in jail there, then I went to Arthur Gorrie Correctional Centre. I remember when I got out of there, I was angry. I was dirty about what I had been through. I was drinking, I was chopping in, I was back on bail, I was back on probation, I was back on parole. And then I got sort of further into gangs, and then I got into a bikie gang. In Queensland at that time, there was a law called the Vlad Law, VLAD. So if you were pinched under the Vlad laws, you're made to, if you're convicted, you would get a minimum of a 20 plus year sentence. And when you went to jail, they made you wear pink, no TV in the cell, no contact to the outside world except one 6 minute phone call a day, and one non-contact visit a week.
it was crazy, eh, bro? Like, because I was living in Melbourne at the time when those Vlad laws came out.
Yeah,
And it's an interesting discussion as well because here in New Zealand now, like they've outlawed gang patches and things like this. They
yeah.
definitely haven't come down as hard as what they did with the Vlad laws because I mean, people were losing businesses, everything, eh?
Yeah, well, there was that Vlad part of the jail part, but then also there was within that first week, like I only lasted 1 week with them laws coming in. I had a one-on-one crack with a different club member at a gym, which I mean, like to the public looking at it now, like it's probably scary, bro. Like, but it was like a one-on-one fight, and I don't take anything away from like I don't endorse that. But we had a one-on-one fight at the gym, and then I got thrown into jail for that. But just before that, and that week leading up, like guys were getting locked up for like wearing club insignia. You weren't allowed to patch the threes. When I say insignia, that could be like patches, jewelry. They smashed three about with the club that I was in at that time's clubhouses. They like literally went there, kicked it in, started just smashing all the memorabilia, smashing everything up, closing
Oh,
businesses, like you said. They brought in all these laws like for like tattooists and anyone who was sort of associated. They were just pulling over like people who had like just like a vest on, brother. Like they were just
yeah.
pumping anyone.
So
There
like
was
what happened with those laws?
a certain instance that kicked it off. So on the Gold Coast at Broadbeach, there was two different clubs. So there was so many people at once. It looked a lot worse than what it was.
Yeah.
Like nobody really got caved or stomped or
I was
anything like
more of
that.
a
But
like an affray.
yeah, it was more of an affray. So people were just a bit scared. But boys got pinched, and then they went to the watch house. But then I think the certain club like went to try and get their members out of the watch house.
Oh,
And I
true.
think that was the part that was really bad. Like there was people getting tasered, like it was nuts. Like they were trying to break into the watch house, like it was fucking crazy.
What happened with those laws? Because they're not in effect now, eh?
Well, so what happened to everyone who was jailed? We got put into this gang unit. Like so, where I was at Woodford Correctional Centre, and we were segregated with. So when you got 2 hours out of your cell, I was with one other member from the club that I was in at that time. And then we were segregated with another club, and they had like 8 or 10 members ish at that time. And then, sort of on that time slot, we would get our times, and then on other time slots, other clubs would get their times. So I only put two different clubs together at a time, maybe that ones that didn't have conflict.
And you were
But
wearing like pink and everything.
yeah, full pink, bro. Like, and if we got escorted around the jail, we'll just be wearing pink and like pink onesies, like handcuffs. Pretty nuts.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. So that fight happened and then you ended up going back inside.
Yeah, so went back inside. I think I was maybe on parole at that time. But yeah, them laws like most of the people in there were in segregation, and I was in there for about 2.5 months ish, and then like other people were getting released back into like mainstream population like before that. But then there was a couple of boys that sort of done served a bit more time and they didn't get let back out. But essentially they let everyone out of the gang segregation unit and just let us back into like normal mainstream.
Yeah.
So that was sort of what happened. But other jails kept it for longer. The Vlad laws are still around, and then you can still get charged under them, but it's like it's a bit harder for them to try and do what they done before because like what they done before is they just like sort of change everything overnight and a lot of people were getting really negatively affected by it. Like people who were just like stiffs or like might have just had just because you're friends with a club member, like you get
Mm.
associated like people that might have just been at the pub with their friends. It fizzled out, but if you can get convicted, you can still get convicted under them laws. They're still around.
So I mean from there, bro, so what sort of happened from you, brother? For you?
I got out of jail. I only served 1 year in jail.
But
So
during that time you went back to jail, like how long were you actually looking at and things like this?
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. So for my like for them charges, so they couldn't, so they let me out of the gang segregation unit. They couldn't convict me, so I was charged with an affray with the Vlad part. So the Vlad part was the dangerous part that sort of held all them
Uh,
conditions. So they couldn't convict me on the Vlad part. So if I was convicted, it was a minimum 20 years off. No, at that time, Dad was about 10 years into his 16.5 year prison sentence. I thought it's just going to be the rest of my life. I remember sort of sitting in them cells, brother, fucking so boring. I actually wrote some notes in there to myself. I don't know why, just like a diary. And I've actually gone over them. I just remember they're so boring. I used to just sit in my cell, couldn't really train much. I used to just wrap everything that I had up in my cell in my sheet, sit on the end of the bed and do like leg extensions. Fucking just bored as bro. Just looking out the window. Dad's 10 years in. I'm looking at 20. So that criminal sort of mindset growing up in housing commission, visiting dad, that whole, yeah, it just become normalized and it fucking just all hit me at once, bro. It was fucking, yeah, I thought that was it. I thought it was going to
wow.
be it.
That happened from there. So you ended up getting out on parole.
Yeah.
How was your mindset getting out of there, bro? Was it still that same mindset of get out and do what I was doing before, or were you seeing a bit of light by that point?
Like when I was in jail, and I think this happens to a lot of guys who've been to jail, like, fuck, I'm gonna change when I get out. You know,
Yeah.
I'm gonna change. I'm fucking crying in jail like a little bitch. And but then when I got out, I was like, nah, I just went straight back to what I was doing. But I was yeah, I was still on parole. I was on non-association. Non-association in Australia generally means that you're not allowed to hang around the club that you're in, or any ex-affiliated people. Any sometimes also anyone with a criminal history. So I was on non-association with my own club, and my own street gang. So I was in a street gang, and then also I was the president of my club at points. So I sort of wasn't able to associate with them. I was living on the north side of Brisbane. My mum done a massive solid while I was in jail. Her partner was locked up at Woodford Correctional Centre with me at the same time. This is not my dad. She got with another bloke who was in jail as well. So always turning up. She went to like marches and rallies and spoke up about the Vlad laws and how I was being
Oh
treated and
wow.
others in the unit. So mum's always been solid. So yeah, I remember sort of getting out and I was living with mum because she got the house for me and her partner. I got out first before her partner. So yeah, I was out on parole on non-association. Um, I think, and then when he got out, he was on non-association too. Not that he was in the club, but he had association, so it was tricky, bro. But I just sort of laid low until parole finished, and then I started running amok again. I was soon enough back on bail. Dad was coming up to his 16.5 year prison sentence, and he also had really strict um, parole conditions. Well, if he's on non-association, this is really bad. And they come back to him and said, if Jacob and you, oh, you're on non-association, Todd. So if you and Jacob associate and you get caught together, and Jacob says that he's out of the club, which is what I was going to do. I don't know if I was under investigation at the time or they just thought ahead. So the plan was to tell him that I was out. but I wasn't going to be out. But then they said if Jacob does that and we catch him doing that, the worst case scenario would be we're going to put him back, you, Todd, my dad, back in jail.
Yeah.
Or best case scenario is Jacob, you're not allowed to see, won't be able to see you. And I was like, fuck. I just spent my whole life having jail calls, jail visits. Then I went to jail and wasn't able to see my dad for a very long period. I was like, that's it, I'm out. So I went and told the club, and then yeah, I left. That was one of the main reasons I left the club.
Yeah, so
Mm.
that was for your old man. Wow.
Mm.
Well, what was that experience like, man, when your dad came out of jail?
Dad getting out of jail, bro, was like something that I've been waiting for 16 and a half years, rocking up
Yeah.
to maximum security jail visits.
So when your dad got out, bro, and you decided to leave the club, like, where did life go from there?
Well, brother, I was still hard in it. Like I was like, I was crim. Like I didn't make money legitimately at all. I was in that life, like flat out, full time. And I knew that for me, I needed to change my ways for a few different reasons. One was I didn't have the protection of the club that I had before. And I'd done a lot of bad things to people, and there's some things that I went across, like broke my morals that I actually done for the club, and then also things that I'd done like earns, piss people off. I was worried that not only um, that if I go back to jail, I'm going to have drama. Also, I'm going to have drama from other people, sort of going to kick my door in. It was yeah, it was a hard time. I knew that I had to sort of get a new job. Otherwise, if I kept doing the things that I was doing before, it was going to land me back in jail, and I would have been in trouble. And I knew I had to sort of make a start in moving towards a new life. So I sort of started thinking about how I'm going to get a job.
Far out. So, yeah, where did it go from there, man?
I'm really into training in that, brother. This medal right here is from Gold Coast Marathon. Done 3 marathons in the
Mad.
last sort of couple of years, and I love going to gym. I love training, love boxing. I think it's really good for my mental health,
Mm.
especially after trauma. It's one of the big tools that I use.
Yep.
So I said to Dad, I was like, Dad, I just left that life. I was still heavily involved in drugs and alcohol. I was still on bail. I started sharing my story about going through the SA, and I was doing drug and alcohol counseling. I was doing anger management, but that wasn't for my own personal gain. That was, oh yeah, it was for my personal gain because my lawyer said, because I'm on bail, you should do this so you don't go to jail.
Start ticking the boxes and that.
Yeah, well, it's
But
just I
sometimes when
was
you're
sort of
ticking the boxes, sometimes actually get something out of it, eh?
yeah, exactly, bro. And that's one of the things that really helped me because Dad said, well, I said to Dad, I want to maybe become a personal trainer. He's like, well, what about that? Or working with the organization that help you to share your story. And I sort of thought, you know what, I'll go and ask them. So I started asking them, and at the same time, I was on still on bail, and I had engaged in I think 10 or I think it was 20 drug and alcohol and anger management. I remember walking into them drug and alcohol counseling sessions with a bad a bad head brother because I didn't want to be there. So my last offense was for caving someone who like said something online to me, which is pretty silly. Like, imagine if I'd done that now, brother. Like I got
Yeah.
like I couldn't have been in big trouble. But back then, bro, I was fully in that life, and he called me he called me a dog with no evidence. On a public forum, I was like, fuck, I have to get this gun. I'm in that life. I can't just let that slide. It was just an ego thing. And he ended up going to the police on me, dobbed on me. So yeah, one of the things that my lawyer recommended to do was to start going to drug and alcohol, anger management.
So you said that you ended up opening up about your abuse and
Yeah,
things, which would have been a massive step, I guess. Like,
yeah.
when did you first do that, bro? Like, actually open up about it?
It was around about that time, yeah. It would have been around about that time, yeah. Yeah.
Because I mean, even that's huge, eh, bro? Like, I mean, studies
Yeah.
show, that for a lot of guys, it takes decades. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For someone to open up about that. So,
That's an important point to raise. Like in Australia, there was a 5-year Royal Commission into institutional SA. There was over 8,000 survivors that come forward and told their story. And I'm pretty sure like what they said from that was, a couple of decades, or 23 or 25 years it takes for someone to come forward. So yeah, for me, it was really hard. It was scary. Uh, and also too, coming from that crim lifestyle, crim background, growing up, visiting jails, having jail phone calls. My mates were in jail. My dad was in jail, and he done 16 and a half years. And in his case, like there was a dog. So when I had to share my story, I had that thing like where I think a lot of guys probably think that if you speak up about it, like you're a dog,
Yeah.
um, and also maybe you won't be believed. So yeah, that was super hard for me to get over. Like I initially said no. I said I don't want to do it because I feel like I'll be a dog for doing that. But at the end of the day, I know for a lot of people, like when we call someone that word or an SA offender, like that's a lowest of the low. So like you could commit crimes or whatever, but that them guys aren't in the same level as what guys are in who sort of are doing burgs or hustling or armed robs or whatever it is. Like these guys are scum of the earth and sort of because of our code saying that we're going to protect these people, but it's really, it's a grey area for a lot of
Well,
guys.
yeah, well, I mean, that would be the one of the big pushes, for like organizations such as yourself, is letting guys know that that's not being a dog, eh? Like when you're
Yeah, it's
talking
not
about sexual abuse and like things of that nature.
100%, brother. Like, I'm not like sort of sitting here telling people to go and do police statements or anything like that, but that was really hard for me to come forward and share my story about going through it. There's a lot of guilt, shame, embarrassment that goes along with, the SA.
So you ended up going through that experience, bro, and you started doing programs and things. So yeah, where did it take you from there? Did you end up getting sentenced for that?
Yeah, well, I sort of and turned up and started doing them anger management, drug and alcohol sessions. Um, But I started walking in with a different spin on things, and I actually started learning stuff from going in there and doing it. And I sort of learned that that whole lifestyle that I grew up around probably wasn't normal, and you don't need to jump on someone's head if they say a bad word to you. So I started learning techniques around that, and thinking about it. Like, is going to doing these sessions worth it? Like, I mean, it was for me, but like the stress that it put on me, the money, the court fees, the stress that it put on my family, these are all things that they were raising for me to think about. Like, next time someone says a bad word to you or looks at you the wrong way, um, you don't need to retaliate like that. But yeah, I sort of started kicking off working with the organisation that helped me to share my story. So they gave me a start. They encouraged me to start studying. But I was felt a bit funny about studying because I was like, what are people going to think about me? As in, guys from jail, crims, like they're just going to think I'm just like a dumb crim and I could never do it, or they're just going to laugh at me. But I was like, fuck, what? Like, I never cared what anyone has thought about me before. Why should I start caring now? So I started doing like tertiary preparation, which is like a bridging course. Then I finished that and I was like, oh, I want to try do some legal studies so I can open up my own law firm one day. That's one of my goals is to open up my own law
Wow.
firm to sort of
Wow.
advocate on that level.
So like when you wanted to go down that route of being a lawyer, like because you ended up getting compensation and things for the abuse. So like, was that when you started learning about like that? You know what I mean? Like going for compo and things?
Yeah. So around that time, I started learning about the compensation. I was going through my own claim process, so I was learning it through my own lived experience. Then I was like, well, I want to start doing legal studies. So I was like, I had to get through that tertiary preparation, the bridging course, and I was still working for the organisation. My case was still going through. Eventually, I got into like a Bachelor of Arts, and then doing legal studies, major in legal studies, and then I got into a different university and I'm doing a Bachelor of Laws. And around that same time, oh sorry, Bachelor of Legal Studies. And then around that same time, went out and started my own organisation with the blessing of the organisation that I work for. So me and my old man, who's my co-ed at About Time for Justice, we kicked off, our organisation 2020.
Wow.
This week, I just
Well,
put in my application to just like do a Bachelor of Laws. So that's like the what you need to get done, bro. I'm sort of right now. I'm a second year law student.
good on you, bro. That's a massive goal you've kicked there, man. That's huge. Well, like with your old man as well. So like during the time that you made your claim, did he sort of make his claim as well?
Yeah, well, I gave him a bit of encouragement and sort of guidance and help to help him share his story.
Mm.
For so in our family, bro. We have like my dad's side of the family, they're like stiffs, like clean skin. So both of my dad's brothers, they both went to university. One of them had two kids, both went to university. The only difference between my dad and his two brothers was that they didn't suffer SA. I did. So from my essay, we had intergenerational trauma, intergenerational incarceration. Although mine was a different institution. If I didn't grow up visiting jails, having jail phone calls, I more than likely wouldn't have went to jail. And if Dad wasn't SA'd and sort of self-medicated for many years, he probably would have went down the same path as his brothers: education, gone to university. Um, so there is that intergenerational trauma that does come, and intergenerational incarceration that can come from the SA, bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah, straight up, man. Well, it just shows the massive impact of it, eh? Like, even for, how many men that I've had on this show, ex-gang members, current gang members, I'd say the amount that have actually been sexual abused would be over 90%, you
Mm.
know, of out of over 100 interviews I've done, so that's a lot of guys, that have been through that. And yeah, just because the thing is, when you look at things like robbery and burglary and armed robbery, like, yeah, there are victims, you know what I mean, that would be affected, you know what I mean, if they were there or being robbed. But I just feel like the trauma from being sexually abused, though, is just, it's a whole nother level, isn't it? I mean, it takes decades. I mean, it's a life sentence, like you were saying before. But the sentences don't really reflect that, you know what I mean, on the sentencing of what armed robbers get and what child abusers get.
Yeah, it's fucked up here in Australia, bro. Like, let's get a slap on the wrist or a very low jail sentence. Very,
Yeah.
very low.
So, I mean, from there, bro, so from 2020, I mean, how has the last 5 years been, bro, for, about time for justice for you and your old man, the family?
Yeah, no, it's been a lot of healing, a lot of coming back together. There's obviously difficulties and probably trust issues. Like I was heavily involved in drugs and alcohol for many years, and I probably would have pissed off a lot of people, my friends, my family. But time heals all, no matter how deep and dark you are in it. Like if you stop, it's that time where people start believing in you, and then you start
Mm.
doing the right things. Not rocking up cook to family events, or not in the watch house, or not in the newspaper. You've got a job, or you got a missus now, or them things. They go a long way in sort of rebuilding and healing. But yeah, we expanded sort of, we work nationally now. We also help a lot of that 501 mob out too that have been deported, from Australia to New Zealand, that might have come over here as a young kid and suffered SA, or help people that have been deported over to England. Um, and then we sort of, only in the last week or so, made it publicly sort of known that we started a non-for-profit called Healing Voices Foundation. And our aim is to help people that have been through the system, particularly like when it's the system jail, that have been through SA and survivors, to help them reintegrate. So we're doing like programs to like for reintegration. Because in Australia, they just like, so, for example, in Victoria, they just done these new strict bail laws, and so like they opened up a new jail called Western Plains, which I'm going to next week. Um, but like they spend millions or billions of dollars on these programs, so like they should be investing more programs into programs with lived experience and just programs generally, because throwing money at more jails doesn't fix the problem that just keeps getting worse. So yeah, we want to help guys with pre and post release programs, linking services. So yeah, we're sort of we've got a few grants in at the moment. Pretty exciting. It
Yeah,
took a
it's
long
real
time to be able to
exciting,
get to
brother.
that.
So, like, say you're even going to Melbourne prisons and things like this as well.
Yeah, well, we sort of kicked off with New South Wales and Queensland. Over the last month or so, I've been visiting South Australian jails. I went to Yatala which is a men's maximum security jail. I went to Mobilong, which is a men's medium jail. I went to Cadell, which is a men's like farm style jail. Went to Adelaide pre-release, Adelaide Remand Centre. This is all South Australian jails, and then went to Victorian jails. So went to the new Western Plains jail, Port Phillip, aka Port Putrid. You might have went there before.
Yeah,
The Mat, Ravenhall. So yeah, I'm sort of been invited to speak in the prison systems at Ravenhall and the MAP.
that's
So hopefully,
huge, bro.
yeah.
Like, that's massive work that you're doing, bro, especially getting into the prisons, like, especially in Victoria, man, like, that's huge what you're doing.
But it's hectic. Like when I go back into the jails, it feels so funny because like I go in
You
on a
get a bit of
professional.
anxiety?
Yeah, bro. Them doors when they close, oi,
You
the airlock.
gotta
You're
double
not.
check you're not wearing greens, huh? So I mean, even along the journey, bro. So you've even been able to connect with a lot of other people like Dennis and stuff like that, eh?
Yeah, run that rehab. So, there's a fella named Dennis from Run That Rehab who you might have seen on the previous episode or whatever, but he's done boob jail down in Victoria, been through drug and alcohol addiction. There's another fella who's an ex one percenter. He hasn't done jail, but he's got lived experience of, mental health and been in the clubs, and he's very supportive of people coming from jail. So we do a live stream. We're like a little like
Yeah,
crew. We call ourselves the Knockaround Guys, and we do a live stream every Monday night. And we've done it consistently for a year. And we have so many people sort of coming to that. It's at 6 p.m. Queensland time and 7 p.m. New South Wales and Queensland time. I don't know what the thing is for that, but at the moment, that's what it is. Um, if there's anyone wants to come along, so I'd love to have you there. We have like people's loved ones from jail, people still in addiction, people who broke out, and people that we just help every single week. That's pretty cool. I love, putting stuff out online.
yeah,
It's
it's
fun.
massive, eh? It's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, so what are on the cards at the moment for you, man?
Tomorrow I fly to Sydney, meeting up with some of the lawyers that we work with. Friday morning I fly out to Melbourne. I think we have a full day at maybe Port Putra Jail. Then Friday night there's an event that's getting held in Melbourne CBD by this guy named Cap Carter. He's like a singer. He comes from drug and alcohol, like addiction recovery, and he's invited Dennis to like open up for him and have a meet and greet spot. So like Dennis has organised heaps of influencers from our space of like drug and alcohol, sort of coming from that lived experience to all be there. Speaking at a rehab Sunday night, and then just jail visits all week next week, bro. Speaking at
Uh,
not, two rehabs next week. So yeah, pretty busy.
and the work never stops, eh, cuz? Oh, well, I'm glad you found some time for this interview, my bro.
Nah, thanks for having us on, brother. And yeah, a lot of people that come from that life, like, brother, these skills that you learn along the journey, they're transferable.
Straight up.
Like these skills are transferable. Like you might be able to bust a move, put a hustle together. You might be able to communicate with your crew about what needs to be done. All these things that I've learned from back in that old life, I use them now.
Yeah,
Um,
and you can see it, bro. You can see you've really been able to, yeah, shift those talents, eh, into something positive. Because look how busy you are. Hey, brother, like, well, man, we're sort of coming towards the end here now, my
yeah.
brother. It's been a blessing having you on. And bro, so much respect for everything you're doing. I mean, bro, for anybody out there that has been through any sorts of abuse and is sort of locked in and doesn't know how to unpack or unload that. I mean, what's your advice, bro, for people that have been through that experience? Because as you know, like the first step is sharing, isn't it?
There's a lot of guilt, shame, and embarrassment that sort of is carried along survivors' journeys in a backpack. Guilt, shame, embarrassment, maybe other emotions in their anger, frustration. But that backpack, it doesn't actually belong to you. It belongs to the perpetrator. It needs to be handed back to them. And the way that we do that is we stop the perpetrator's violence by breaking the survivor's silence. You need to hand that backpack back, talk about it. Um, it. I know for a lot of people too, you might have spoken to a counselor in the past and you had a bad experience, but not all of them are bad. Like you might have had one bad experience. This is just some things that some people have said to me.
Yeah.
Um, it doesn't have to be a counselor either. It could be your close, it could be your partner, it could
Mm,
be a safe person, it could be your bro. But speaking up about it, man, like, because if you don't speak up about it, what happens is it builds up. I'm currently speaking to a counselor. I normally speak once a month at the moment. I'm speaking twice a month, sort of learning different techniques, training heaps. But you got to keep on top of it. Like, if I wasn't to do that, like, I could quite easily just go back to, bad behaviors, which could lead to, I don't know, like fucking whatever. I know
yeah,
for a lot of other people as well, like especially men in jail or coming from that life, the self-medication is just a massive tool, which is
huge.
very unhealthy. The self-medication, like the self-medication should be your very last option because what happens then is like you spiral out of control. You ended up back in jail. You're losing your job. You're losing your family.
Bro, can I ask, when you did first share, like, Can I ask, like, who was that with, bro? And like, what was sort of your mental processes like when you were able to finally, like, just, speak it out?
Yeah, well, they were just sort of talking about it, their experience and what it was like for them talking about it. And I did, disclose it, tell them, and I was sort of, that's when I was saying a little bit earlier, I was sort of started thinking, they said to me, do you want help? Do you want to sort of come forward and get that conversation for what you went through? And do you want to speak up about it? But I went straight back to that old life, sort of mindset from my old lifestyle where it's like, I'm going to be a dog so that's where my mind went straight away. But I was like, no, my dad done 16 and a half years straight. I've never dobbed on anyone my whole life. But then they're like, sort of explained it to me, like, you're not sitting in the police station, like writing a statement on somebody. You're just helping yourself. You're speaking to a lawyer to sue an institution civilly. It's not a criminal matter. So that helped me to unlock it. But then even further still now, yeah, shouldn't be protecting them people, regardless if you're from that life or not, because they're just absolute scums. Yeah.
Yeah, straight up, brother. Well, look, man, again, brother, it's been an absolute blessing to have you on the show, man. Looking forward to when you ever do make it across here to the ditch. I'm sure there's a lot of people that would love to hear your testimony over here.
Yeah.
Hey, bro, so if people do want to get in touch with you, is it through the website and social media?
Yeah, and just for anybody, if you like, wherever you are, if you're in New Zealand, like we're helping people out in New Zealand currently. So, like, if you want to reach out, if any of this stuff seems relevant to you, I'm best to communicate on Instagram. And that's my personal Instagram. So it's just Jacob, Jacob underscore little Lit for Tom, T again, LE triple one. But our business name is About Time for Justice. So that's the logo as well. So if you just look it up, we're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I am on all their platforms too. I also have a YouTube and podcast channel called Jails, Gangs and Justice. But if anybody wants to reach out, if you want to collaborate too, please reach out. I'm also hooked up with reintegration services in New Zealand as well. So like, if any of your listeners want to reach out, have a yarn. I've like gotten people help from Australia because of the networking I've done in Australia with people over there.
Massive.
Like you've reached out to me in the last couple of days and asked me to help someone
Yeah.
in jail over here, and I'm probably going to speak to his missus in the next couple of days. And while I go down on this trip, if there's enough time, I'll just maybe try and catch up with her. We can help out. Yeah.
Yeah, no, massive, man. So, yeah, definitely don't hesitate to reach out, guys. Again, bro, it's been a blessing to have you on the show. All the links are in the description of the video as well, so please follow them up. And, bro, it's been a blessing, man.
Thank you, brother.
Cheers, my bro.